Vanni is working outside while you hold his hand every time I come out here. His and my share of the work we began yesterday. Instead of just watching other people do it, get your hands dirty and use your imagination. Every bike that needs to be built is. Everyone is always working, and you know what? We have had to deal with things like this for 10 years. After making Orange County choppers a huge hit on TV, Paul Teutel Jr. lost everything in a terrible family fight. His dad asked for $1.00, $5 million from his own son. His brother had to pick a side, but there was a time when you and your dad stopped being close. I mean, he fired you. Yes, he did. It was hard at the time, but now I see it was the best thing that could have happened. And when Paul had his own kids, he saw how much their famous fight had really cost. Since having my son today, I've learned to accept and understand my own father a lot more. The man who made some of the most famous bikes in America tells the sad truth about why he hasn't eaten Thanksgiving dinner with his father in 15 years. In the mid-1980s, most kids liked to ride their bikes, watch shows, or play Nintendo. But Paul Teutel Jr. had a totally different idea of what was fun. He worked at Orange County Iron Works when he was only 12 years old, where it was hot and noisy. Other kids were at the beach, but Paul was cleaning up metal shavings from the workshop floors and giving grown men tools to help them weld steel. He used to go to his dad's job site and play with scrap metal, like it was a toy before that. He would arrange them into small statues, making art out of things other people would have thought were trash. What they saw early on changed everything. At age 14, Paul could already weld with such calm accuracy that even the more experienced guys looked up to him. He learned more than just how to do things. He also learned how to think like a maker. Things weren't always bright and shiny in the shop, though. Paul Sr., his dad, was known for being tough, and he didn't treat his son well. He was often tougher on him than on anyone else. Junior made too many mistakes to get away with them. He would be yelled at in front of everyone if something went wrong. A few people thought it was unfair, but Senior thought it would make him stronger. They grew apart more and more as the years went by. I also believe the show caused a great deal of harm to the family. Paul Sr. liked raw force and old-fashioned ways of doing things, while Paul Jr. was more artsy and liked straight lines and fine details. Jr. changed the shape of a fence one summer to make it stronger and look better. His dad turned it down at first, but a few days later he agreed and used the design without saying a word. That moment said everything. There was respect there, but there was a tug of war going on all the time. Most of his peers were studying hard for math tests, but Paul Jr. chose to do something else. He signed up for a program that let him learn metals during the school day. He learned how to read plans, how to weld, and how to find the stress places in steel. Something his teacher told him was very special. He could tell how metal wanted to move before he touched it. Junior practiced every cut and join after class for hours until it felt easy. He knew he could do well even without a fancy degree. He only had to get better at what he did. He wasn't the kid cleaning floors when he went back to his dad's shop after high school. He was a skilled maker who could talk like a pro and make things that looked good. Paul Jr. was in charge of the fence section at Orange County Iron Works by the age of 19. That's a big job. It brought in almost half of the company's money. Second name Tennessee Myers, Thomas Quab Jr. Thomas was known as the most accurate 360 census of the tops-picking trains, FM, who created a more intimidating look for Junior, and his designs were so famous. People were ready to pay more and wait longer just to get something he made because his designs were so famous. He also had to lead a group of workers who were a lot older than him. Some of them were veterans of war, and some were skeptical at first. Over time, though, even the meanest ones came around and said he knew what he was doing. Now, what do you think? Are you planning to use an Indian reason? He changed a metal shop into a place that people talked about. You have to work hard to earn that kind of respect. But there was still something missing. Junior felt trapped after years of making stairs and fences. His goal was to make something living that could move. He lit that spark when, after a long day at work, he started drawing motorbikes in an old notebook without anyone knowing. At that point, his dad also started riding bikes again. Senior asked Junior to help him build one, which was just a friendly request. But Paul Sr. was shocked when he saw what his son had drawn. Not only was it technical, but it was also art. Senior looked at his son that day and said, "Let's build bikes for real." He meant as a business, not just for fun. It wasn't just about bikes. They needed to fix something much bigger. The years that had passed since they had seen each other. The family's ironworks business gave them about $175,000, 0 cents, which they used to start Orange County Choppers. But it wasn't fair. Kept 80%, and Junior got 20%. It wasn't important yet. They only had a dream and a bunch of tools and a cold basement. But after a few months, people started to notice the bikes they built. There were late nights, lots of welding and blue paint with white flames that went into making their first one, true blue. No way that could have come from a frozen shed in upstate New York. It looked like it came from a big-time building. People were shocked when they brought it to Daytona in 1999. They were no longer unknown. They did well, but it wasn't easy. They were making bikes in a small, cold garage in 2000. There wasn't enough money, tools broke, and sellers wanted payment in advance. To stay on schedule, Paul Jr. often worked 18-hour days and slept on a couch in the shop. They were always fighting, with big yelling fights, not for fun, but to stay alive. They barely broke even on each bike they sold. They didn't have to keep going, but they couldn't stop. Then there was a call in 2002. A magazine story about their bikes caught the attention of a TV director named Craig Peligian. He looked around for a new TV show. "What the hell do you want?" Paul Sr. asked the caller when he picked up the phone. The producer pitched a show about fixing up bikes from junkyards. Senior turned it off right away. He said, "We build them from scratch." The deal almost didn't happen, but a few weeks later, the producer came back with a better plan. They would film the real process, fights and all. Paul Jr. didn't like the idea. He was afraid that the cameras would make everything worse. In a 5-page message to his dad, he said, "They'll make us look like fools." The contract was rude. $5,000, 0 cents per episode, unlimited camera retakes, and lighting that was so hot it made their welds fail. At one point, the show's makers thought of the name Family Friction. Paul Jr. almost walked away, but they had to sign for the money. No one knew what would happen after the March 31, 2003 launch of American Chopper. It blew up in just 3 shows. Every week, more than 3 million people watched. They were stars all of a sudden, not just bike builders. People from all over came to see their little shop. Items flew off the shelves. That first season alone brought in $13 million. 0 cents for Discovery Channel. To keep up, the Teutels had to move into a huge $12 million 0 cents building. People were interested in Paul Sr.'s anger at first, but Paul Jr. kept them watching. Fans didn't care about the trouble. They loved seeing him grow. Junior's ideas were like magic. They were quiet, focused, and exact. In fact, a scene of him making a gas tank with no words or music was one of the most watched videos ever. In America, more and more people signed up for welding schools. The Polly effect was the name for it. Then the Black Widow came along and changed everything. It was more than just a bike. It said something. There are handmade wheels and a spider-web gas tank that took 167 hours of pure skill. It was shown for the first time in New York, where 15,000 people crowded in to see it. Police had to keep the crowd in check. They soon sold everything from model kits to clothes to video games. In just 6 months, more than 280 Zero model kits were bought. It turned OC into a brand, not just a store. The fire bike wasn't just another helicopter when Paul Jr. finished building it in June 2003. It was a big moment in his career. He wasn't just building a motorbike, he was also making a memorial for the firemen who died on 9/11. That meant that each part of the bike had to have a message. The real piece of steel from the World Trade Center was one of the most powerful elements. Paul didn't give that to someone else to do. He welded it on himself. He made the diamond plate frame just for this bike and connected the sharp piece of metal to it. That was the last piece, and it made me cry the most. That wasn't the only problem, though. He had to totally rebuild the bike's frame. Because the design was so big, it had to hold 343 hand-painted symbols, one for each fireman who had died. It took a lot of work to make something with that much weight, both literally and figuratively. And when the bike crashed the next year, the New York Fire Department didn't handle it like any other accident. They came right away and carefully picked up the broken bike as if it were a fallen friend. That's how important it was. It's still in OC's museum. It's been to more than 248 events. People still go there, cry, and leave memories and personal notes next to it. After many years, Paul Jr. would think about the hurt and power of 9/11 again with a different project, a second tribute bike. When this one was shown off on January 2011, it got a huge response. There were more than just bikes there. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and the head of the 9/11 Memorial were among them. Daniel R. Tishman, a board member of the memorial, asked Paul to make something amazing, and he did. Not just one bike, but two. One was kept as a monument, and the other was given away to raise money for the memorial. The tickets were sold in person and online, and the whole amount of money went to help the 9/11 museum. People cried that day when the bike's cover came off. There were old men, couples, and tourists. The emotional weight of what that machine stood for hit everyone. The picture told a story without saying anything. People who couldn't be there heard about it through the Huffington Post, which wrote a full article about it. But what was really amazing was the smarts that were hidden behind the flashy paint and metal. Paul Jr. It wasn't just making bikes look nice. In 2012, he quietly brought a new method to the world of motorcycles that changed everything. He started to use T-splaning, a tool that helped him make smooth, bent forms more easily. It only took 15 hours to do what used to take over 40 hours. And that method was very important when he used Autodesk to build an electric bike. Soon, other shops copied the idea, but they often didn't know where it came from or give credit. Then, in 2015, Paul did something that made his team shocked. He came up with a way to make motorbike frames stronger but lighter. He didn't stop there. It changed the way they built customs in every way. He learned how to write G-code on his own. G-code is a computer language for CNC tools. He used to only be in charge of building bikes, but now he could also run the tools. He went from being an artist to a machinist and worked on both the artistic and technical parts of the build. Paul Teutel Sr. and his son have been having problems for a while now. It began in secret in 2007 when Sr. gave Jr. a 20% stake in their business but kept full control. The father runs the business and the son brings the style. At first, it seemed like a good plan. Bounds started to tip, though, as Junior's ideas got more attention and fame. Not as much praise was being given to Senior's old-fashioned work as it was to Junior's crazy ideas, which made the man who built Orange County choppers from scratch unhappy. There was jealousy going on behind the scenes. Senior's grip got tighter. It set off a spark every time Junior was late or did his work in his own way. It got tougher to put out as it burned longer. The shop was a war zone by 2008. There were regular fights between the father and son. It was mostly about being in charge. Junior wanted to be free to make things, while Senior wanted to be obedient. The artistic spirit and the strict rules were at odds with each other. They got some of it on American Chopper, but not the worst of it. Senior became more mean when the lights went out. Not just with Kid. A designer named Jason once smashed his own work to pieces after one of Senior's rants. Everyone in the store was careful. Even Mikey, the younger brother, who was always trying to keep the peace, couldn't get away from the mental damage. He looked broken, like being yelled at for years had finally worn him down. Then there was a big fight. September 2008, Junior was late again, and Senior lost it. It turned into a screaming match in front of the whole crew during what should have been a warning. But I want to be with my dad. But when I got out of that unhealthy relationship, I grew mentally, personally, and in every other way. I became my own person after getting out from under my dad. So Junior could defend himself? Senior wouldn't listen. Junior said he always got the job done. Junior answered. He said that OC would not work without him. That was it. When Junior got really mad, he threw a chair and then a trash can across the office. Senior then lost it. He slammed a door and stormed out. Junior went after him and fired him right then. Throwing chairs at each other didn't just damage furniture, it also destroyed any work relationship they had left. It would become a joke years later, but at the time, it was a mess. There was confusion after the shots were fired. The group was split up. People who were afraid of Senior's anger didn't speak out in support of Junior. People began to worry that their bikes would not be as magical now that the creator who made them was no longer there. The network even went crazy. Junior got a warning from TLC because he had broken his contract by leaving the show. He came back as a worker for a short time, but it didn't last. He was done for good by April 2009. Junior went even further. He wanted Junior to have no part in the business at all, so he moved to buy his 20% share. Senior sued Junior because he wouldn't sell. The mess in the courts wasn't just about money, it was also about power. Senior wanted to be in charge again. He said he had the right to pay $500,000 0 cents to get Junior's shares back. After that, he filed a case and asked for another $1 million in penalty. That's right, he put his own company, Orange County Choppers, on both sides of the case. It was a sneaky move meant to get Junior to leave, but Junior wouldn't give up. One badly written part of the contract caused all the trouble. It said that Senior could buy Junior's shares at fair market value, but it didn't explain how to figure out what that meant. That unclear language would be used against you in court. In 2010, when the case went to the New York Supreme Court, the first decision went in Senior's favor. The judge agreed that the buyout clause was legal and asked a third party to figure out how much the shares were worth. Junior seemed to be done. They sat next to each other in court and didn't even look at each other. Junior made a case, though, and in December, everything changed. The appeal court changed the decision. They said it was impossible to apply the rule because it wasn't clear enough. That meant Junior kept his 20% share of OC and Senior couldn't get him to leave. It was a huge gain in court, and for me personally as well. Everyone thought that the son had been killed, but he was still there. and his father couldn't get rid of him. You know, I'll say that my relationship with my dad is one in which we don't fight. Are we going to hang out? Please don't think that we are hanging out. Things aren't terrible, but they could be better. That's fine. You know, these things take time sometimes. Junior still couldn't make bikes right away. He couldn't work for anyone else for a year, so he couldn't build motorcycles until 2010. He turned around, he began designing products, such as a dog park and a new look for Coleman's Grill. He kept going even though it was one of the worst times of his life. He and his wife changed a room in their house into an office, hired a young man to do computer work, and started Paul Jr. Styles as right next door to OC. In April 2010, the same month Paul Jr. when his one-year deal with Orange County Choppers to not work for anyone else finished, he did something that no one saw coming. He did not just open his own bike shop. Instead, he started a full-on mutiny. There were guys like Vinny DiMartino, Joe Pulafico, Noob Colored, and even his own brother Mikey, who were very important to OC but left to follow him. Not long after, Cody Connolly joined too. It wasn't just a change in business, it was a mass departure that made Paul Sr. feel terrible and very angry. Discovery Channel didn't wait around. They used the backlash to make reality TV gold by starting a new show called Senior versus Junior. Each week, a father and son competed in a fight that crossed the line between family and ratings. Paul Sr. and Jr. have been arguing for a while, but this show made it public. It played in August 2010, and every episode made things worse. Paul Jr. wasn't sure if they should show their family drama on national TV, but Paul Sr. was all for it. The shop fights were meant to be dramatic, and people in the crowd were asked to choose a side. It was indeed tantrum TV, as one critic put it. The bikes were less important than the mental damage. This wasn't just fun anymore. It was real pain that was being shown to the public. People still couldn't turn away. Something strange happened in the middle of all this chaos. Paul Jr. met Rachel Beast while filming an episode. When she showed up in a yellow costume as the McCuff girl, something clicked. What began on TV turned into something important. While cases were being filed all over the place and the Teutul name was being used in many different ways, Rachel gave Paul Jr. something solid. She ran her own store and had her own job, and she quickly became the calm in his storm. Paul found balance and, finally, a stronger trust in her, which changed everything in his life. The wedding they had in August 2010 should have been a new beginning. There was one empty chair at the beautiful big party with a 6-tier cake from TLC's Cake Boss. Everyone saw that Paul Sr. didn't show up. He had been asked to come, but the cases and bad feelings were still too fresh. On one of the most important days of his life, his father wasn't there. This hurt a lot. Even though there were more than 100 people there, it felt like someone or something was missing. This loss wasn't just personal. It showed how far apart they had become. The scars didn't heal quickly, even after years had passed. Then, in 2015, Paul Jr. had his own child. He and Rachel had been having a hard time getting pregnant. Finally, after trying for almost 2 years in New York, they had a baby. In a strange turn of events, Hudson was born while on a short trip to Nashville. Paul Jr. said it changed the way he saw everyone and everything, even his own father. He knew what he had lost in all the years of silence and courtrooms when he held his son. He realized for the first time what it meant to be a dad and how hard it must have been for his dad to see him leave. Somewhere between the drama in court and the chaos on TV, Paul going through a quiet change. He began to think about things more seriously, especially his faith. He said in an interview that he wasn't happy with how he was living, even with Rachel, but after a powerful spiritual vacation, he felt better about his life. They were brave to decide not to get close until they got married. They both cared about it, even though it wasn't easy. He finally made the move. They kept the same faith when they got married, and it became a driving force in Paul Jr.'s life. He even started talking about it in public, sharing his story to help others find their own way through hard times. He finally had the courage to talk to the man he used to be afraid to talk to because of his faith. He did this for Hudson's sake as well. Every time he looked at his son, he knew what it would cost him to keep quiet. That's when he started to heal a fight between Paul Teutel Sr. and his son, Paul Jr. About life, it wasn't always about bikes. They were private, angry, and very emotional. What began as a family business turned into one of the ugliest fights reality TV had ever seen. Not only did millions of people watch as handmade bikes were built, but they also saw a father and son fight with each other as each wrench was turned. Their biggest fight was in 2011, when both guys competed in a build-up show that showed how different they had become. Senior chose his usual rough and angry style, while Junior made a bike that looked like the P-51 Mustang fighter plane. It was stylish, artistic, and full of soul. That bike talked. It wasn't just moving. It was clear that Junior wasn't just making tools, he was making points. It kept taking place. They fought several times between 2010 and 2016, but Paul Jr. won 5 of the 7 times. This showed that he wasn't just a kid working for his dad. He was a force in his own right. When Junior left Orange County Choppers in 2009, he didn't just start a business. He made a kingdom. Most people thought he'd go away since he was banned from working for a year. He switched gears and worked with Coleman to make a grill. This change kept his business going during a tough market. It led to more deals after that one. He began selling things, making dog toys, and even constructing a public dog park. His name did better than his dad's by 2012. His line of clothes made more money. He worked with global giants like Blizzard and Paramount, and his bikes were used in huge advertising efforts. He wasn't just making bikes anymore, he was also creating costumes for famous people in the entertainment business and making a lot of money. But even the hottest fights can end. Helen Teutul died in December 2011, and Paul Jr. One of the most honest moments the show had ever caught happened between Paul Sr.'s grandma and mother. For the first time in almost 2 years, Junior called his dad on the phone. They talked, nothing complicated was said, just a few words. "She loved you very much. I'm sorry about your loss." Senior didn't know what to say on the other end. You could hear something change in his voice as he said he wished it had been in person. There was sadness and maybe even sorrow behind the anger. That moment wasn't the end of the world, but it was real. Paul Teutel Sr. and Paul Jr. got back together in 2018, but it wasn't an emotional family success. TV makers planned and pushed for it as a business move to make money off of old dramas. After their big fight in 2009, when Sr. fired his son from Orange County Choppers, the two hadn't talked to each other at all in almost 10 years. It was very quiet. Discovery Channel didn't want to heal a broken family when they suggested a reunion. They wanted to fix a broken motorbike. They picked the helicopter that was themed after the Yankees and was built in 2005. It had been sold and then destroyed for some reason. Some people even said it might have been broken to get insurance money. The network had a great reason to bring them back together after that mess. It was tense behind the scenes. They each had their own shooting dates, strict rules, and even backup plans in case things got bad between them. Senior tried to be calm by saying they were a little older and smarter, but everyone knew this wasn't going to be a friendly get-together. After 2 years, there was a 2-hour show called The Last Ride that was meant to end everything. It made things worse instead. At first, the goal was good, an American-made bike ordered by ABC Supply to stand for family and honor. But it was clear from the start that nothing had changed. Like in the past, Senior didn't care about what his son had to say. People on the crew could feel the stress, and in the background, the old OC shop was being torn down. It had strong moments that didn't last long. Afterward, Junior said that the only time he felt good was when he and his dad worked together, quietly, without cameras around, just building like they used to. But that didn't happen very often. Senior told her straight out that he hadn't wanted to build the bike when it was done. He said, "It didn't help our relationship." Friends were very angry. As people spoke out against Senior's cold behavior, hashtags like Respect Paul Jr. became popular. Despite what the ads say, they're not even close to being there. As of 2025, their lives are very different from each other. They only talk when they have to because of the terms of their business deal. Between 2018 and 2023, they worked on a few bikes together. However, people who know them say it was all for the cameras. Junior said in a podcast not long ago that he and his dad haven't eaten together at a holiday meal in over 15 years, not even after Junior was born. It's also split between them. Senior still runs Orange County Choppers, and Junior built Paul Jr. Designs into a $14 million 0 cents brand with license and clothing deal. That they don't want to work together again because it hurt their relationship seems to be something that both guys agree on. Yeah, in the same spotlight now, but not in the same world. Junior is now ready to talk. He said in February 2025 that a new book called Given the Opportunity would be out in October, but this story won't be finished and ready for TV. Friends and family say it will be raw and completely honest. It's likely to show a lot of things that were left out of American Chopper, like a fight in 2008 that almost got physical. His first book was about his job and his religion. This new book, on the other hand, is about heavy topics. His father's drinking and the damage it did to their family over time. Junior said that he is no longer going to lie. Yummy immigrants, he thinks that telling others about it might help people who have been through similar family problems.